India's digital ecosystem and the deep fake news items that have poured in from the last week onward, IT Minister now says that safe harbor provisions will not apply to platforms that are putting out content that could be artificially manipulated. So you cannot claim immunity from prosecution if you are deliberately putting out content as a platform.
True, Shweta. So I think a couple of very interesting points raised by MOS Meti, Mr. Rajeev Chandrashekar, and there is the safe harbor clause as part of Rule 79 of the IT rules of the IT Act in India, and that suggests that platforms could seek immunity against user-generated content. But MOS IT is suggesting that the safe harbor clause, which grants this immunity to platforms, and which are the platforms we are talking about, pretty much all social media platforms like Facebook, Meta, YouTube, Instagram, etc. All of them cannot use this safe harbor immunity when we talk about AI generated content. And at the same time, the minister is also saying that experimental content experimented with using generative AI, whether it is through a chat GPT or a Google Bard or any other such tool which is available out there to create artificially generated content of any kind, will be outside of this gamut of safe harbor. And at the same time, he's saying that platforms have no business to let such experimental content come out on their platforms.
Where is the room for creativity, Kartik?
So, Shweta, I think it's a function of creation versus distribution right now. You want to do experiments, creating something, do those experiments in a closed user group. But is there merit without really being completely guarded against deep fakery, without being completely guarded against copyright infringements, without being guarded against all other ethical concerns around biases when it comes to AI? It's fine to experiment and train platforms and create that content, but is it fair to distribute that content and run the risk of people believing that content to be true? So I think the creativity impetus, and India in fact has stood out and said, despite a lot of Western powers that be trying to curb AI through regulation, India has always maintained, and I think will continue to maintain, that we are not trying to throttle innovation. We are not trying to thwart innovation. Rather, we just want to create a framework through which we make sure that this innovation is not misguided, misdirected, and does not become a tool for misinformation or disinformation. So I think there is no constraint, no restriction on the creative prowess that AI can offer. But I think the restriction is on distribution of that content.
So don't choose social media platforms to distribute content that you know to be untrue.
And at the same time, if you remember last week, Shweta, Meta had come out with a guideline suggesting that any advertisement or any sort of commercial content which has been created using Gen AI or AI generated any sort of content is going to carry a disclaimer that this has been digitally altered, this has been digitally created, recrafted, and is not an original piece created by an artist. So Rajeev Chandrashekar also saying that that is not enough. Just providing a disclaimer that this is AI generated content and leaving it to the judgment of viewers to either read that disclaimer or not is not going to suffice. So pretty much he's saying that stop putting deepfake content, stop putting AI generated content on an experimental basis on social media, and don't think that you will be protected using the safe harbor clause of IT Rule 79, because this is not necessarily user generated content, this is AI generated content, and AI generated content will need, even in the absence of a Digital India Act and even in the absence of AI regulations in India, he's saying there are enough checks and balances, enough rules and guardrails that protect that protect users against becoming victims to deepfake sort of imaginations and creativity.
Right. So it's not just the creators of deepfake that will have a problem, it's also promoters, including your social media platforms that actually host this content.
That's right, absolutely. And one more very interesting thing that I want to touch upon is the fact that even though last week or so Rajeev Chandrashekar had asked social media platforms to take down all deep fake content or all AI driven sort of misguided content, disinformation, misinformation from their platforms within 36 hours. At the same time, he's also asked users, people like you and me who hop on to social media platforms, to actually at any point if they discover fake content
to flag it.
to flag it and to file an FIR.
Absolutely.
Because in the absence of an FIR, if the government keeps ordering social media platforms to take down content, his point is then the citizens and the platforms say that, hey, the government is against freedom of speech. So he's saying the onus should also be shared by citizens out there, that if there is some AI generated content or deep fake or anything which is disinformation or misinformation, should be flagged, and maybe an FIR should be filed at a user level, so that the government also has more sort of tentacles to go and grab social media platforms to take down that content, rather than it just being a government to social media platform diktats which are seen as against freedom of speech.
Right. So Minister of State for IT, they're saying that people, citizens, need to be more proactive in identifying fake news, artificially intelligence, or altered through AI, content that is altered through AI. Flag it, ensure that you file an FIR, but more importantly, putting the onus not just on creators of artificially generated content, but also the platforms that generate those content.